Welcome back to day 137-ish. I don't care. But I got a testosterone. That's fun. I had to wait 20 minutes for them to fill up the prescription, even so it's been in for a few days now. But I wait for that. I guess they do it when I went there, I guess. I don't know. And then I went to the nurses. And I asked them about how to inject it, because you have to learn how to inject it. So I asked, I had to go ask them about it. And they were really sweet there. She was a really sweet nurse. Loved her. Like 10 out of 10, great nurse. However, I think I waited like an hour there, because because even though they said pick up testosterone, bring it up, and they will give you your first shot there, they're like, actually, that's your shots. Those are yours. We need to get our own, and it's going to take a bit. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I sat back down, and she waited, and we waited, and she's like, yeah, the doctor was in the middle of something, so they couldn't send the okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And we were waiting. I was waiting there. And so then I'm like, okay, I need you to tell me what to do. Like, every little thing you have to tell me. And so she was real sweet about it. And she's telling me how to push. I don't have any. How to push down your skin to get the shot that you want, and that you have to do it really slowly, because testosterone is thick AF apparently. And now my hip kind of hurts a little bit, but yeah, so I got my first testosterone shot, so that's really fun. So yeah, I got my first testosterone shot, and I got my month prescription for testosterone, which I wonder if it has a refill, because I'm only supposed to talk back to the doctors after 2 months. So yeah, that's odd. So I have to see if I have another month's prescription on file. But yeah, so got that. Learned how a super sweet lady really heavily walked me through what to do. She gave me a little printout of what to do. Little tips and tricks of what to do. Very, very fun. And then, but yeah, so I had to wait like an hour. Oh, really close. I had to wait like an hour before the nurse could give me the testosterone, because they had to not only get the okay from the doctor, prescription from the doctor, they then had to fill it up. And I'm like, okay. But so that was almost 12 hours ago now. That's fun. That was real fun. But every time they ask me about COVID symptoms, I'm like, no. Because I have a headache. But apparently that's from my jaw. I try to wear a mouth guard. I'm like, boy, I already do. No, I already wear a mouth guard. Maybe they don't, but I'm like, I do. And then I have like it's like, do you eat anything like nausea, even like diarrhea and stuff like that? Like not diarrhea, but like nausea, like stomach queasiness, yeah. But it's like it ain't from COVID, freaking from my allergies. Right now, I'm gonna really be sick in a few minutes just from sitting in this chair that has cat allergies on it. You really think it's coming from COVID? And then like the headaches, I explained, and they're like, no, that's not a symptom. Not here at my dentist previously and stuff. But I'm just like, no, that's not it. So I'm just like, okay, no, I'm not even gonna say headache. And I'm just like, I asked one time, and they're like, well, if allergies, then is it normal? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. But I know it's really interesting because I got a shot, and it lasts 2 weeks. 2 weeks worth of testosterone in me. But yeah, so 2 weeks of testosterone it's in me right now in my system, and it's just like a funny idea that it's just worth 2 weeks because people say in the first 2 weeks they experience mainly something called bottom growth, or even bottom like discomfort that leads to like that's around having bottom growth, which is really funny because I think that happened pretty quickly, but that could have also just been like bottom dryness that happens. So I'm like, if it does happen in the first 2 weeks, and I'm not getting another shot for 2 weeks, 1 shot of testosterone does that to a man? So that's really interesting. So, like, wait, TMI for people, but I don't care. It is what it is, you know. It's biology. But yeah, what I'm saying is that it's funny. So I'm wondering if I should text my dad. On one hand, I don't want him to think, not less, but I don't want him to think that I didn't think of him. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm gonna text my friend who is a trans woman who's been on hormones for around a year and a half. I'm gonna text them. They go by they, them, or she, her pronouns, by the way. So if I say they, it's not misgendering. They prefer they, but they use they, them, or yeah, they, them, she, her. Like I use he, him, they, them. Literally changing on a dime of what I wanted. I know one person said that their voice sounded like when they have a cold. That being said, I don't really hear a difference when I have a cold or when I'm sick. Mainly it's just I'm miserable. But some people get like slightly under the weather and they hear voice change. So there's that. But since real voice changes don't happen until like 4 or 5 months, I'm not gonna be like, oh my lord. No. But yeah, so I'm gonna text my friend and my aunt, who is very unknowing about trans issues. She when I mentioned non-binary and they, them pronouns, she's like, I don't understand. But then I'm like, trans guy, he, him, and she's like, Yeah, my aunt very unknowing of trans issues. Like when I first came out and I said I use he, him, / them. I don't remember what I said before the cut, so I more or less starting over. When I came out, I mentioned that what pronouns I use, and she understood. Like, okay, he, him, man, got it. But then I was like, okay, and then I'm like, they, them, and she like, don't understand. I'm like, you don't understand, and I guess you never realized people can use they, them pronouns, which is so funny because it's like, I understand growing up, I didn't know that, which I think needs to, in a way, be taught to people without tying it to even the word non-binary, because people automatically think of non-binary people and be like, oh, that's too confusing, I don't get it. I'm like, okay, but if you learn exclusively about using they, them pronouns, and then be like, okay, this person might identify with non-binary, I think that would have people understand a lot more. But, you know, it was really funny when I first transitioned. She started changing, saying like my new name and pronouns and stuff. So one time I wanted to thank her, like give her a hug, and I was like pre-COVID, and I gave her a hug and I mentioned, thanks, and I like kind of started crying, and she's like, yeah, and you use she, her, he, him, or whatever, if you're a man or a woman or whatever. And I'm like, whatever, you mean non-binary? The thing I mentioned, but I wasn't gonna say that at that moment. Slow steps. My other aunt, I had to, even though maybe a little bit more knowledgeable, I don't know, very curious, she loves learning. So she's like, what does LGBT mean? And I was like, lesbian, gay, bi, trans, and more, like, and plus. She's like, yes. And I'm like, yes. And she's like, I think there's a chance. She's a teacher. She's like, I think there's a trans student, and she has saying he. So I'm like, okay, I think there's a trans student. And I went to her school one day because she has tenure, so they can't freaking fire her anyways. So she's like, just come to my school. I'm like, okay. So I went to her school, and I was with her the whole day. And in the hallway one time, she's like, that's him. And I'm just like, okay. By him walking by and me only seeing the back of his head, when we just see he's a trans woman, because I only realized that she meant trans, like would be trans feminine, because he wore a skirt one day and is a little odd. So I'm like, okay, I wouldn't put the word trans on him unless he puts that word on him. She's like, oh, well then what should I say if I think he's all, like, first, don't. But there's always gender non-conforming. If he, even gender non-conforming actions, but also gender non-conforming, like, aesthetic and outfits. So if he wears skirts, but he goes by he, him, he hasn't came out, he, don't push a label on him, obviously. You can explain, oh, there's a gender non-conforming kid that I teach. But it was really funny because in one of her classes we sat in, there was a older teenager, I want to say 16, 17, and she has a sports bra on, like a ring, like a chunky black or silver ring, necklace, t-shirt, jeans, sneakers, short hair, and I'm like, and that's who I thought she was talking about when she said that there was a trans student at her school. I'm like, that kid? Is it that kid? Apparently not. And the kid kept saying, like, us girls and stuff, so clearly she's in, like, trans, or at least not, like, out on trans, if she is. But it was just so funny, because I'm like, oh, this one? No. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Trust. I don't know if it's like, if they're like from Germany. Like, is it a German thing, or is it exclusively like my aunt's thing? Where I'm like, you trust me too much with kids with fire. She's like, these aren't kids, they're teenagers, and I'm just like, like, yeah and no, because I'm just like, they are literally playing with the fire. She's like, they wouldn't. I'm like, girl, yeah, they would. They're freaking teenagers. She's like, did they do it to impress like a girl? I'm like, no, I think they were just two dudes just messing with the fire. She's like, who? I'm like, the two dudes sitting next to the fire. She's like, oh, thank you for telling me. She like blew out the fire, and she's like, yeah, usually only blow out the fire when they're like middle school age. I'm like, you left at 15? Like, you would leave 14, 15-year-olds with fire burning in the school? And I'm like, you are also allowed to have fire? Like, I remember in college, in like university, we asked if we can have a candle that we were gonna blow out for a birthday thing, and they're like, no, dear God, don't have a fire. And then they leave 14-year-olds with fire in a classroom full of kids, like a bunch of 14-year-olds, not one. I might trust one. I don't trust a group. Anyways, really sweet. My aunt from Germany, really, like, but obviously before tea, given the fact that was a year ago, and I only just now got tea. She mentioned, even though I speak very, very minimal German, you can hear she was saying my nieces and nephew. She was saying my, like, oh, he is from blank, and I'm just like, my little heart. So, and then my uncle did the complete opposite, where he would be like, my nieces, and he would like look at me, and I'm like, I understand you. I understand. I do speak a little bit, the tiniest bit, the teeny tiniest bit. I do speak German. I understand pronouns and a word very close to like the niece and nephew, you know what I'm saying? I understand words, you know? Very, 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 very small, but I do understand.